So we're going to work on a micro Draco today, and I'm going to show you guys how to put an optic on one. So you've got a couple of options on a Romanian Draco, but on the micro you have some issues. So the micro Draco typically comes with this little handguard up in the front and no way to mount an optic. The sights are your typical front sight here, and then you've got this awful rear sight, and that's all you've got. You don't have the typical rear sight base here with the normal parts on it, so you can't use a lot of the optics mounts like you, let's see, let me show you a part like this part here. So this is Texas Weapon Systems, and it's a micro dot mount that would mount here, but we're missing the main components of the rear sight. So this has a TSS handguard up here in the front where you drill and tap the rear sight base and you actually install this top half. Now, they have just come out, this is the beginning of 2019, they just came out with an adapter that is the fore end and a Texas Weapon Systems dogleg rail here at the back. It's extremely expensive. It's like $400 or something. So that option would work. So what we're going to do, you have two options. You could do this one in the front and mount your red dot up here. And it's a little bit high and kind of, I don't know, in a weird spot. I would like it to be further back. You don't want to use a railed dust cover that just flops around, and all the dogleg rails won't work because you don't have this up here. So what we're going to do is we're going to swap out this dust cover here for a regular dust cover, and we're going to put a side rail mount on it and use one of these. So here we have the AK Master Mount, and this is one of the best things ever invented for the AK platform. Makes it super easy. So we're just going to go over how to take this thing apart and do the whole job. So let me zoom in just a little bit here so you can see what's going on in the trigger group, and we'll get started. So the micro Draco has this little buffer piece back here to keep the bolt from going too far. Just push your recoil spring up and out, pull the buffer out, and then pull your operating rod out. This one has the shepherd's hook design, so we don't have to, we don't have a plate to pull out, and you can actually leave the safety in if you really want to. We're gonna let the hammer go forward, and then I like to use this little pick here with a round hook on it, and that's the easiest thing to get these springs out. So we're gonna leave the hammer forward like this, and then reach in here and grab these legs like that, and pull them up and around, and then put them on the front there of the hammer. See that? So it's gonna rest right there. Do the same thing with the other side. Wrap it around there, and then we're going to take a zip tie. I like to use a thinner zip tie just to make it a little bit easier. Stick it down here. Try to keep this in frame for you guys, and zip it down. Not crazy tight, just enough to keep those spring legs from hitting you because it does not feel good. And then our hammer is free floating. Next up, we'll use our little pick again, and we're going to get this shepherd's hook out of here. So there's the shepherd's hook. It's going under this pin. I already moved it out of the way. But what you want to do is find the front of it here and yank it out forward like this. If I can show you, I will. It may be a little hard. Okay, so right here you can see these coils. You have to get in between them, and you have to pull that shepherd's hook out. So let me, I'm not going to be able to hold it up here, dude. I'm going to have to do it down here. Okay, so I'm going to pull the shepherd's hook out through the front, and there it goes. Get that out of the way. And then now we can pull our pins out. There's the one for the trigger, and wiggle the one out for the hammer. You'll typically never need to hit them from this side. They'll almost always just come right out. Sometimes you have to get them a little, give them a little bit of a tap, and then you can just leave these in here. So the master mount should have several holes here to clear any rivets that you may have. Some trunnions may have an extra rivet back here depending on what kind of gun you're working on. So it'll kind of float around here and it'll sit like that. This is made of a nice quality steel, and the pins have a hex on one side that will fit down into a groove so they don't turn. So we're going to put them in through the side like this and then put set screws in there. So we will try to leave the hammer in place and just kind of wiggle everything around until it fits through the other side. This is where having the spring legs zip tied really helps. Make sure it's lined up, and then we'll just give it a little push to seat in there, and then hold your finger on it, flip it over so you can see this part, and then we'll go ahead and start this in. You should Loctite these. I'm not going to do this one right now for the sake of the video, but I'm going to get it tight so that pin doesn't back out. Decently tight. Same thing for the other side. Just kind of make sure the trigger is lined up there and wiggle everything through, and there we go. Make sure this is completely flat, and then we'll put our screw in from this side. You know, you could install an actual side rail mount, but then sometimes you have to worry about, depending on what kind of attachment method you use. If you use nuts and bolts, then you're going to have nuts in here, and they're going to be in the way of a retaining plate. So if you're using a retaining plate, you're going to have to use a shepherd's hook if you do something like that. So that's it. This thing is installed. It's incredibly easy. Then we'll just cut our zip tie and let our spring legs down. There. Check for function. Okay, so it looks like we're having a little bit of a problem with the hammer floating side to side in this particular gun. So I'm going to have to make a spacer that goes on this side. So when the shepherd's hook is in there, it takes up enough room and it pushes the hammer over this way. But it looks like without that, right there it's fine, but it'll actually push over too far, and it's hitting this, hitting the ejector rail. So I'm gonna have to make a little piece to space that over, it looks like. So let me do that. I have not run into this before, so we're gonna see what works. What I did was I found a washer that was the same thickness of this hook here, and we're gonna try that and see if that puts our hammer back where we want it. So it's gonna be a little bit difficult to get this little washer down inside there. Well, we get the pin through, but it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Just going to kind of line the washer here and pull it down. Place here. Alright, there we go. So the washer is in. It's not perfectly aligned, but we should be able to push it through this. Okay. I'm just pushing from the other side. There we go. Okay, looks like it's going to work. I'm pushing it as hard as I can. This will not move over too far, so cool. Looks like that'll work in the case of the Romanian Draco at least. So to reiterate, the hammer here was moving too far this way since the shepherd's hook wasn't in the way. So using that washer, we'll get it out of the way there. So, alright, so when you get these pins in, you're going to want to use some, or the screws in, you're going to want to use Loctite for sure. Because if you get these pins too tight, it'll actually pinch the receiver, and the operating rod won't move smoothly anymore. So let's get these things back out of here. And we'll go ahead and put some Loctite on them. And get them set tight enough to where the operating rod will still move freely. And then once the Loctite sets, we'll be good to go. All right, so there it is. So we've got a top mount now on our Romanian Draco. So this thing is all set up. We'll go and test fire and see how it goes. But that's pretty much it. So even just basic tools, you could definitely put a scope mount on here. The other option would be to drill the receiver and actually bolt one on there. So yeah, for 80 bucks, I think it's definitely worth it, especially for the guys that don't want to pay a gunsmith to actually go in and drill and tap or drill the receiver out and mount a rail on there. So there it is. If you guys got any questions, put them in the comments, and thanks for watching.